What is happening? We're back. Quinny again, episode 99, two in a row after the hiatus. Look at us, we're back on a roll, back in form. The L5 is rising quickly, which is good to see. Good to see you back, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, building up that L5, get rid of those DNPs. Love that. And yeah, back straight into form, back straight into schedule as well. I can't remember if it was regularly a Thursday, if it was a Wednesday, but it was around about midweek anyway, normally. So, right back into the old rhythm, Stishy boy. Great to see you, by the way. I only caught this on your Instagram. I'm very rarely on Instagram, but I seen you were highfalutin, getting the old penguin suit on and hanging out.
Yeah,
You were at the Brit Awards this year. Well done again, mate.
yeah, mate. Got down to the Brits on what was it last Saturday? So that was good fun. The awards itself is not the best event to be at, like in terms of seeing acts play and all of that's a lot stop start, obviously for the television with the ads and stuff like that. But yeah, I had a great night out. Shout out, one man came with me, and there was a we were seated with a bunch of sort of content people. So yeah, it was good rubbing shoulders with the stars. Um, until I had to get home at 2 o'clock in the morning in London. It's not as easy
Looking
as it
sharp,
used to
mate.
be.
Looking sharp. Looking
Yeah,
sharp.
yeah, done my bit, mate. What can I say?
Auditioning for
After a
James
week,
Bond, that's what I thought.
that's it. Put me in the running for it, mate. Let's could do with that. Could do with that James Bond money. Let's let's get some of that back in because I'm not getting too much end product on Sorare, Quinny. I don't know about you, but last weekend was not fantastic for me. But we'll get into a little caveat of that. But yeah, how did you get on last week?
Not too bad, not too great. I forget precisely how it shook out, but I had some. I got some bits and bobs, but I think I got a fair whack of bits of money and stuff like that, and all my card rewards were. Oh no, actually, I tell you, I'm getting muddled up with one week to the next. I wasn't too well over the weekend, so I opened it up myself, which is why I didn't remember it too well. I got an okay super rare actually. I got Oscar Mingueza in season, which he's been all right in spells, but fullbacky up and down or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, But I found it really interesting off the back of last week's show, like just kind of recontextualizing everything. So it was like great. Everyone who seemed to check out the episode when we were live on YouTube and Twitch or on any of the podcast vendors or whatever who caught the audio version of the show afterwards, everyone really liked the kind of the zoom out kind of look back because we had been away for so long kind of approach on it. So I still had all of that lens coming into the weekend a little bit, and I would say I was a little bit disappointed with how well I done because I felt like I was in a bit of an ascendancy. I still feel that way, but when you're on that little ascendancy on Sorare where you feel like your guys are hitting a bit of form, you're nailing your combos, you're getting the right captain pick, you know what keeper's not going to let you down. You
Yeah.
just expect it to go like Harry trades week after week, podium after podium, which actually used to be your move, Stish. Going on a wee run of form of just winning stuff for like a month and finishing
I
all over the
haven't
place.
I haven't had a month like that for ages. Not really since the big shake up with the new sort of splits and yeah, in season and classic. I haven't had that. Do you know I don't think I've had I think I might have had one podium in like a special or like a low cap. I can't remember what it was, but I've not won anything particularly good. And yeah, in terms of hitting that you know bit of consistency, I haven't definitely not had that. um I go into the game weeks most weekends like excited about maybe 3 or 4 lineups. Yeah, I think I'll always go into U23 with high hopes, but it just the games have not fallen gracefully in terms of the fixtures not really matching up with my goalkeepers. Maybe you got your big hitters that you can rely on week to week, like Verts and Musiala there, and Cherky's been fantastic again this season. But it's the goalkeepers, and to be honest with you, I could probably do with investing in some more defensive options, just because I've got 2 or 3 that you can kind of rely on. They're a little bit fixture dependent. And definitely the case in Super Rare. I think I've got maybe one reliable AA defender, and the rest of them are like like we always laugh, don't we, about Frimpong in the group chat. Putting Frimpong into a team is like throwing a grenade in down an alleyway, like at an opponent in Call of Duty or something like that, and not looking. He's either going to hit an 80 plus or he's going to score under 20, isn't he? So I think he scored 12, didn't he, on the weekend or something like that? It was one of the lowest I think I've ever seen him score. But we move. I think this weekend I've sort of started my squad building, and I'm quietly confident about my Bundesliga entry, which I'm going to put in there, just because I think it's got a little bit of differential. I don't really go into those because you're mostly playing against other Bayern stacks, but I've got two. I think I've got 2 or 3 Bayern, and then I've got Verts and we may or may not use. That's the main thing this weekend, isn't it? Is that rotation coming off the back of the European fixtures, and I've got to figure out how I'm going to play that. You know, we had Donnarumma in goal, and Dembele are 2 of my like heavy hitters in Champ, but I don't fancy either of them to start after the close game they had against Liverpool. So it's going to be really tough, I think, this weekend. I'm definitely not as confident today as I was yesterday when I started looking at the teams after the results last night. I think it changes a few things. What about yourself?
Yeah, I just want to say there's a lot of great chat coming into the guys that are joining us live for the recording we've got going on at the moment. So thanks to everyone that's jumping in. We'll grab some of your comments in a second. But I do really like the kind of squad gallery construction element of what we're chatting about there in terms of like I've been collecting defenders like for ages, like not through any desire. I actually hate defenders, but the thing I hate about them is that they're all so flaky. Like,
Yeah,
you know, like you can get a good one that are they are the top of the food chain guys that are pretty solid, L15, L40 or whatever. But the majority of defenders are fixture sensitive, you know. And whenever I've got ones that I don't mind, I've just like they're always like in the market. Defenders are the cheapest shit to get in all
yeah,
regions and all everything. So I've tended to just like stick with the guys I like and just try and like not sell any of them, even if they're shit right now. But if I like them, and I feel that I've got like way too many defenders, but it gives me lots of choice and stuff like that, which is fine. So it was interesting to hear you on the opposite scale of that,
yeah,
in terms of um like the rotation stuff. We've also had a massive cull of teams that are in Europe. You know, we've went from a 36 team group stage in the Champions League and everywhere else, and now it's just like the final 8 or whatever it is essentially. So like it's a pain in the ass for Wirtz and a few of those kind of guys and some of those squads, but that's quite isolated now compared to like 3 months ago when it was like half of Europe were playing midweeks and weekends. It felt like, especially Sorare players that are in top teams that people build around and whatever. So like Wirtz is a pain, but at least we know. Like, I'm not playing him like anywhere meaningful. I don't think he's going to play this weekend.
no,
3-0
I
down
don't.
to Bayern from the first leg. Next leg is next week, so and Xabi Alonso and Leverkusen rotate like mad. So I really like Leverkusen aside everyone else right now, because you kind of know what the rotation situation is right now. You know what people are fighting for. You know who is a good team, who is a pushover a bit better than we did a month ago or 3 months ago.
Yeah,
So yeah, I've not quite. I did some recording earlier today as well off the back of our chat last week, and I kind of looked at. I did my latest installment of like looking at how much stuff I've won, like money, cash, boxes, and whatever. And it feels like I've been kind of slow starting this season. We spoke about that last week, but I feel with so many of my teams, especially the ones that aren't in Europe, like they're a lot easier to play with now, and it's a bit easier in weekends like this to maybe back your hunch of like, for example, I've got Mikel Merino and Ferran Torres, both midfielder cards, both
no,
want to start centre forward this
yeah,
weekend, for their respective clubs. So there's some things like that maybe 2 months ago you might have thought, oh, maybe he rotates in and does that, and it's a gamble. Whereas like this weekend, or really for the rest of the season, that stuff is going to be less of a surprise. Generally, you'll kind of know who's in and who's out for the most part.
yeah.
Um,
I was looking
yeah,
at Torres as well this weekend because I thought similarly to you. He come in, late in the game. He kind of tends, if he's going to start, these are the games that you expect him to start, aren't they? Like you said, it's less of a surprise when you've got the rotation off the back of a European fixture as opposed to going into one. In between the 2 legs, it's a little bit more predictable. And I think that's what, going back to my point with Donnarumma, is like, I won't be playing Donnarumma in any of my main lineups. And I think I'll probably throw, I had got Safanov in season. So I'll probably throw him into like a low division in season champ or something like that and see how that gets on. But yeah, if you can get them right, that is when things do come good, isn't it? And I think one of the big talking points recently was rolling locks or not, subs or not, all that kind of stuff. And I think, I don't know about you, but for me personally, I wasn't a big fan of the rolling locks coming in. I know it was only that midweek just to sort of test it out, but I think that even if you are on, the arse end of a DMP, it's not nice, but sometimes you really need those DMPs to happen at the top end of the table to kind of bring you into the podium. So it swings and roundabouts in it. Sometimes it benefits you, sometimes it doesn't. And for me, I think I'd rather have that aspect of the game intact than never really being able to keep my eyes off my phone over the course of an entire week, really, when you factor in midweeks as well. It would, if anything, it would completely wipe out American tournaments. Like, I almost wouldn't want to use MLS, Mexico, Brazil cards in any of my lineups, knowing that I'm going to be asleep when those lineups come out and other people are going to be able to switch their teams up and I'm not. So I'd rather not. I was listening to the Ramble, I think, in my car the other day, and I think they had Pranksy on, and they were talking about subs and all this kind of stuff. But for me personally, I don't know about you, but I think it should stay as is. I think we just get on with DMPs. If people want to use the rolling lock situation in the free to play, by all means do that. But I don't. I think it would hinder my experience of the game more than, like, what's the word, strengthen it. I think it would have a negative impact on my enjoyment of the game if we had to be constantly looking at my phone. And some people might argue that, yeah, well, that's the game. It is the game if, I guess, you want, if you take it that seriously enough that, this is like a job, if you want this to be a full-time job. And, it already takes a lot of time as it is. And we sit here and do podcasts about it and stuff like that. But do I really want to be setting alarms at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday? Not really. Not for me. What about you?
So I think like this is really interesting in a lot of ways right now, especially with what the chat are giving us. Sorare just updated hot streaks, and this kind of builds into this a little bit because, as you maybe know from last weekend, the DNP story of the week was, of course, the GOAT himself, Messi, and it came out like the day after the lock, and it was kind of like the time zones or whatever. It was just kind of the expected time to get that info for America. And I agree, like I've been killed by so many DNPs, it's not even worth thinking about. So I kind of fall down in the sense of like it is a game innovation that has to come in, but it doesn't need to be standard. It doesn't need to be what's everywhere. Like I really liked what they did with the Champions League. I really like what they did with the Best of Europe thing, the common mode, because you kind of know it's there, and if you want to do that, you can. It's only one team. It's like a bit more manageable. I would say there's a strong argument to let MLS have that facility because it, time zone wise, like with the exception of like the situation that you're talking about for us when we're asleep when the West Coast are playing, we've got no hope in hell without setting alarms for catching the team news for LAFC or those types of teams, obviously. But even just to make sure that like when you see the travelling party and you see Messi's not on the boat or
Yeah.
the plane or fucking whatever, that you can deal with that. I can see it because MLS is totally siloed off now. It doesn't really interfere with anything unless you're going to be bold and play those guys in specials or all-star or anything like that. And I do think there's space to probably just slide it into unique and super rare because again, we were chatting. Was it us on the podcast? I was definitely having this conversation recently, but it's like you can treat the different scarcities differently. Hot streaks is only available in limited and rare, and the golden goal jackpot thing is only available. So again, like the super rares and the uniques, maybe those guys are way more tapped in because of the ROI and the expense of the cards and the gallery costs and whatever. So like maybe the majority of super rare uniques don't give a fuck and they're really happy with it. And they kind of, again, I must have been with Harry. I was having this chat. So I'm hearing Harry's voice in the back of my head saying, "Don't kid me on. You're too busy. You've always got your phone in your hand," kind of thing. And even if it's the weekend, you're still got your phone with you. And I get that. But for rare and limited, the amount of lineups people have
Yeah.
is the thing. It's not just like, oh, I've always got my phone. I'm always on social media because that's what everyone's like. But it's also like you've got 38 lineups across limited and rare and tournaments and whatever. And what lineups do you care about? What ones are you focusing on? And then the domino effect of like, oh, I've moved that guy, and then da 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 da. It just gets. I think it does
Yeah.
get too haywire too quickly if it's like a standard thing. But I definitely think there's a good place for it somewhere.
That was definitely my issue with that midweek, was like the domino effect where I can't remember what player it was, but let's say it was like Kenneth Taylor or someone like that, and I was like, right, he's not starting, therefore I need to move him out. And to do that, that was in my strong lineup. So now I need to take a player out of the weaker lineup, jiggle him round. But he's the defender. Now I need to do. It was like what should have been like, oh, sweet, just quickly switch it up. If you've got thousands of cards, like if you're Pavel Trader, you can just flick another card in or another whatever. But it was where some of my other lineups were locked, players that I could have swapped in have now like locked in another region. And it was like, yeah, this is too much. And it didn't really give you enough time either, because you get the lineup an hour before kickoff. And if you have to make more than one change before by the time you take a second to breathe, you're like, oh, I've only got 10 minutes. I'm lucky I sorted that out when I did. And I think I was watching you and Harry on the deadline stream when those like lineups came out, and I could almost taste the fear in you and Harry's eyes while you were trying to sort of like talk about the lineups. And in another screen, you've probably got like your lineups, and you're like trying to figure out who can I swap out for this guy. And it was manic. And yeah, I mean, I think I was only messing around with maybe 3 lineups. People that have like 3 in each scarcity and all, yeah. I think it overcomplicates the game a little bit. But yeah, I mean, what's the news with the rolling streaks? I haven't actually seen that, so we should maybe get into that a bit.
It seems like a permanent change, right? And we did say this, Sorare are very flexible. They always iterate once they've got data and all the rest of it. And it looks like the community is buzzing over MLS hot streaks, so we're making it even better. It doesn't say just for this game week. I've not read the actual blog part, so we'll do that in a second. But they've toned it down. The base target at Rare was like 420. I think it's now 390.
Mm-hmm.
It was on a graphic somewhere. Oh, there it's there, yeah. So it's went to 385. I think it was 420. Because I was doing the Road to Glory episode yesterday and I was looking at it. And then 405, 430, 450, 475. So it looks like they've kind of evaluated the scores. They've obviously added the scarcity bonus to Rare, which is maybe a hard thing to really quantify coming into this. Now that we've had 2 games of matches, have maybe had some data now to run with. But this really opens up now. 385 with a captain choice and with the 10% scarcity bonus. It's very thresholdy again.
Yeah, that's good. That looks much better. I mean, it's not a tournament that I've got enough cards to play. You need 5 in seasons for this, right? So I think I've got maybe 2, and they're prospects. They're like youngsters that have been in my watch list for years and have finally got their first card. So they're not going to, they might not even get any minutes. I think one of them's got a couple of has started a couple of games, but he's not putting up the sort of scores that make me think, right, I've got this like smasher. I may as well go in and buy another 4. So for me, it's not something I've got involved in just yet. But who knows? If I win a couple more decent ones, I think I'll get dragged in pretty easily, pretty quickly. Bit like Tony last week. He was talking about getting involved in this. I wonder what he made of this. If this is going to be enough to tempt people like Tony in to go out and get those 5 and start hitting these thresholds, because that does look obtainable. Definitely does. And winning a tenner every other week, maybe 20, 10, 20, that's 30 in 2 weeks. It's not bad, is it, really? When you consider the price of the rares are starting to come down, isn't it? Because I think that was another thing that put me off, was how expensive particularly the goalkeepers were in season MLS in those early mints. And just trying to win one of those back can be hard work, even over the course of like half a season, I think. But if they start coming down, then who knows? I might dip in if it
So it says
continues.
here, I've highlighted it in blue. We're making adjustments in our rebalance. So this is like permanent, it feels like. And I didn't realize at first, but they said they've upped the rewards. I think $800 at the top is way more than before. And I
Yeah.
think step 2 has got a little bit better. I think that was like 20 and 10. Or something. I'm not too sure. I want to get another graphic and see what it was. Try and do a wee side by side. So if I'm clicking and popping at the side here, I think that's what you'll see me doing. But I think this is really exciting. I'll be interested to see what Tony's up to as well. He's at training now, so he won't make it with us today. And as we've seen after the vote we did last week, he was back on Twitter saying, I want to become the top super rare trader, so it looks like he's still in a little bit of no man's land. He doesn't quite know where to go with the next step. So it'll be fun to see Tony when we get him back on, and maybe this helps helps like crystallize a decision for him, perhaps.
It's the big
So
100 next week, Quinny. We might have to make sure that we get him on for that.
oh yeah, that's a good point. So I found the original
Centenary.
post. Where is the streak? Yeah, here we go. So this is the original one. It was 420 to get going, and it was a tenner, 20, 20, 40, 100, 100, 40. If you see that there, and it goes up to 500
Yeah.
points. It's 420, 450. You can see how it all goes there. And then I'll zoom in so that you guys can see it a bit better. There we go. That seems better, doesn't it? So yeah, I think the first three, oh no, the first two are identical, but the point differences came down from, wow, 35 points really for the bottom one, 25 points for the second. And then in the
Mm,
third one, it goes up to 50 from 40. The fourth step is 200 plus 100. That raw cash is doubled. It
yeah.
was 100 and 100. And then at the top is at 800. That is doubled. It was at 400, and that was for 500 points. It's now 475. So this is way more enticing.
It is. And I think if you've got the likes of Busquets, Messi in season, you don't need too much more, do you? Like, to really have a go at this, like if you've got a couple of 100 smashers in your lineup that are going to smash most weekends, you just got to try and avoid the DMPs, really, haven't you? With Messi.
Yeah. And I think the first two, most people can mess with. Like that's not going to be big shakes. If your team wins, if enough of your players get a decisive or so, getting in amongst that 10 or that 20 plus 20 isn't
Mm.
going to be too hard. It's maybe scaling, but getting a bit of form, hitting the 4 and the 5 will be the real juicy ones to bag. But like, yeah, 1, 2, 3 are very achievable. I'm looking mainly at rare, of course. If we look at limited, it's what screen am I showing? Is that the old one? No, that's the new one. So we've got the new one on screen. The old one, oh wow, it's really went down. So limited, I'm just looking at it. The top has got better, right? So the top was 100 and 25 for 25,
Hmm.
and now it's 20 and 40 and 160, and all the
Yeah,
point totals are way down. It
that's
limited
much better. Yeah.
350 to start off with, and the top is 430, whereas before it was 380 to 450. So that's a lovely update at limited as well for those budget
Quite
players.
smart when you think about it, because I think limited is the entry level for any so rare player, isn't it? So anyone that maybe has been tempted to get involved, there you go. You've got a nice like carrot on the end of the stick there. But the hope then is that you kind of graduate into rare and stuff like that. And obviously back in the day, we might have had like in specialist, if you were in limited, you'd win a limited star and like a tier 2 rare or something like that. I think that's the only piece of the puzzle that may be missing to like move people up from limited potentially, is like how do they progress across scarcities, unless that's something that they're not that bothered about now. It's just about people playing within their kind of field. But that, yeah, I mean, that limited is that looks pretty fun. It's obtainable, and you can get involved, um for maybe a 100 200 quid. You can have a half decent little squad there and really try and grind that. And if you do get up to like that fourth level, chances are over the course of the season, if you hit that a couple of times, you're making most of your money back, aren't you? So yeah, I like it. It'll be interesting to see what kind of scores people are hitting in this division now, because the one thing about MLS is the lack of the clean sheets. Clean sheets in MLS are quite hard to come by compared to other divisions where they're a little bit more easy to predict, I think, anyway. So yeah, I'm going to be keeping a keen eye on this over the next couple of weeks, and then maybe make a decision a couple of games time if it's worth getting in now, or seeing if I can maybe win a couple of auctions along the way. And yeah, but that's definitely a positive update, and it looks like people have responded to it positively as well, which is good.
Yeah. I think the main thing this does is goalkeeper pricing. It will kind of keep them where they're at and probably reinvigorate the market a little bit for them. Boyson asks a good question: how much revenue you reckon they lost having the old system kick off early access versus this one now? I'm not sure it's too much, and it's not really something I was losing any sleep over. I wouldn't think anyone else in here should either. If you got players cheaper, like I'm quite happy with my initial MLS foray now seeing this, because I just feel that, say, for those first 3 spots, good, okay guys that start are somewhat usable, somewhat viable. Maybe not every week, maybe not like all the time, but you will need them, sort of thing. So I'm glad I've got a little cohort of them before before this is maybe inflated, like a £12 guy into an £18 guy kind of thing. I don't think it'll be much more than that. The stars will still be the stars, obviously. So maybe a wee bit more interest around them, and winning them becomes maybe a bit more valuable for anyone, however you get around that. But yeah, this is really exciting now. It's really opened it up. And this week we've got the MLS Specialist as well, which is just a specialist competition, just normal kind of rules for that. And it's actually paying out better than the core competition in terms of cash pot and all that. So I like the effort they're doing with MLS. And I've said already on other shows before the podcast get back up and running that it does feel like MLS is like the testing ground for Europe next year, because so much, like this year is so different to every other year because of the obvious change in the dynamic. And even at that, we all know that there's been teething problems with the control on essence and, where cards and cash go, boxes, what do we put in boxes, and everything else. It feels like they've just about got all the answers to now. And again, it feels like I've said this every season, but next season, like everything really should be, like really now they've got all their ducks in a row. Mechanism for getting cards out rapid and, essence and all the stuff that they've done. So it feels like some of the little twists, the little extra little slice of life makes the game edgy, fun, and whatever are all getting kind of tested out with this MLS stuff. And like, yeah, I like I like it overall, and I'm quite excited for it.
It looks good. It's got me looking at the fixture difficulty for the next few weeks. Looks like on paper, LA Galaxy are a good shout for a few weeks. They've got 4 favourable fixtures in a row, apparently. So a little bit of inside info there for the end product users. If you can use Google like I did, but there you go, it's there anyway, in your ears.
A bit of that. Looking for foods, picking up from your point, Stishy Boy, maybe a bit better than I did, but in terms of the scarcity thing, I think nowadays, like rare and limited, especially classics, it's kind of a personal decision. What level of the game you want to play to. Sorry, excuse me for.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Like really, no matter what your budget is, if you're going to be playing so rare, you can play limited or rare. You'll have a different experience depending on what your budget is, and that's kind of like your own decision. Like you could, with any limited budget, you could buy some rares, and the quality of them will obviously be way less than what you can get at limited, etc. But you could choose to do that now a lot more feasibly with the price of goalkeepers and whatever than previously. And with limited, you could just obviously choose to get better players and and all that kind of thing. So I don't think there's pressure from like the like it used to be before, where it was like you needed to get rare and super rare. You had to get to the pro division, those D3 kind of situations as we used to think of them. And now it's more just of a, where do you want to live? What kind of game do you want to play? Do you want to play with cheap cards and try and win a couple of quid? Or do you want to play with more expensive cards and try and win some bigger money? But it's not really that much bigger, but you're playing against less people. And then it feels like there's a real divide to super rare and unique then, just because there's just some different game dynamics and whatever. So I don't think there is less pressure. I think it's a lot easier to actually change scarcity, but it's more of a personal choice now rather than a game meta that you have to climb up to keep winning or to do better.
Yeah, that makes more sense, to be fair. When you think about it, I think yeah, and also back in the day where you might win a super rare, you could use a super rare to boost your rare teams in like Rare Pro and stuff like that. Now we don't have that. If you do win a rare, you're probably just going to use it in your limited lineups if it's any good, aren't you? It's not going to tempt you into, because if you play limited, you can still use rares in limited. And for anyone, I think anyone like me, where you have the mostly rare gallery, and in my case, a few like the half decent super rare cards, you end up using a lot of rares, supers, and even uniques in my case in limited comps, just to make use of them and to fill out those limited lineups, which is why I think a lot of the limited divisions are so busy, because people treat it a bit like training. Grind a bit of XP, not be too bothered about getting relegated into Division 3, 4, whatever it is, whatever's left of the divisions. But yeah, it has become a bit like that. It definitely sort of tempted me into buying a few limited goalkeepers that I can just throw lineups in with the cards that I had left, because sometimes you get left with some half decent cards as well, because I've got quite a few cards, but if the fixtures are not fantastic, I'll have decent starters for half decent sides that just don't maybe have a great fixture, that don't look as appealing when I'm putting my lineups together. So they'll get slung into limited quite often. And I've done okay in terms of like grinding essence in limited, but I very rarely win anything, because I think limited is definitely by and large the hardest place to win. It's the easiest place to get involved, but it is hard to win unless you go about it with collections and stacks, and hit on a weekend with that one of those teams. Definitely feels that way among a lot of the content creators that I watch and listen to anyway. They all seem to be pretty heavy on the stacks, and obviously that rolls into, I don't know, the knowledge base a little bit. And even though stacks don't win every week, it only takes one team to win 4-0, 5-0. And it's hard to beat anyone who has a stack from that team for the rest of the weekend. Oh, you're muted, Quinny.
So I'm still fighting the cold there a wee bit. Yeah, I do think like I've been in a bit of a period of reflection since last week, and like I mentioned, I recorded a video I'll probably put out on Saturday, like counting up my money and my cards, my boxes and whatever. I've actually, so that was a bit of a strategy development I made, and I think that's something that I would, if you're going to be playing this game with like a budget that I wouldn't say is limitless, but you're always going to be, oh, I'll buy a card for 30 quid here, I'll buy a card for 20 quid there. If you're always going to be doing that, and I would, and especially if you're on a kind of a crossroads of what to do next or whatever, like I really do think Rare is the place to be, because when I was going through that, I bought 2 limited Casper Schmeichels. I'm going to get a third before the end of the season, and those in season limited, like I've not won that much out of it, but I've definitely paid the Schmeichels back. And then anytime they do anything, it's just like Brucey bonus. Now, all the limiteds that I've actually managed to craft a fair few limiteds, especially this week, off the back of the change, and that's something we'll talk about. Because I know you had some kind of a better experience with that, and I would agree with it. But I give all them away to the members on the channel, so that's just good fun. But if I had that, if that was just my gallery, that would just be an extra little lever of yield, And I know limited cards don't go for much, but if you're able to do that regularly enough, it's just another little thing that can feed you to buy £10 rares and all that, or help you save up for the goalkeeper eventually, that sort of thing. Because yeah, like I do like how it does filter down now, and it does work the opposite way, that if you are limited and you're tempted to go into rare and you see like, oh, they're like the one I've been talking about recently is like, oh, there's James Rodriguez for a tenner. Oh, fuck it. What's the difference between a tenner for a rare and £2 for a limited? Just buy the rare.
Yeah.
And then if it comes good, it comes good anyway.
I bought a super rare goalkeeper after last week's chat we had, actually. I think as we were coming off air, we was looking at like fixtures and that, and I noticed that like the Russian fixtures were back on, and I think I was on Predictify having a look at some of the predicted lineups, and just seeing a few goalkeepers that maybe have moved there recently or moved about, and they've done a bit of a reshuffle. So I put in a couple of cheeky offers on a few goalkeepers, and I managed to get one in. And I think the good thing about super rare goalkeeper there is I can use it in any division, even if it's not going to be a particularly useful card given fixtures. But let me just get into my reasoning. So I bought a Lunev. And I paid, what did I pay for him? I think I paid I want to say it was about 70 quid. So quite a lot of money in you can get a half decent rare goalkeeper for that now, but it does give me that option of a super rare, and he's playing for a good side out there. So he's got a clean sheet in him. He's playing for Dynamo Moscow. So I thought that was pretty good business. Whether or not it comes to any decent wins for me is another thing. But after talking to you and Tony last week and talking about that move back into one division for super rare and stuff like that, looking at that, the tail of prizes coming down to where it did, I just got a bit tempted. So yeah, like I did dip into the market after last week's chat.
I actually bought a super rare as well. I got a Robin Lenormand classic for 30 quid, 35 quid, which I thought
That's
was
good.
alright. Goes with a Sociedad collection, it gets it to 2% now. I was like, it's only like that, Sabitzer and Robertson are the only super rares I've bought this season. The classics, obviously. And I think that's a combined price of like 180 quid or something, which is just mental considering the price that even Robertson used to just go for generally. So yeah, I kind of DJed into a little bit of that myself, and I actually benefited from the one season thing this week with my Girona stack. I almost won the thing. If I'd got a little bit better, if I'd swapped my keepers around, I might have won it. I finished 7th and got that Mingueza, which is probably one of the best super rares. Yeah, probably the best super rare I've won, depending on how you think about it with the goalkeeper. Sorry, but as I'm still coming off a bit of a cold, if I'm a bit quiet, apologies. Um, but the guaranteed essence payout, the removal of boxes and the core comps, we still now get boxes and the specialist and the all star and whatever, and there's still them that come out. But the guaranteed essence, I rather enjoyed just getting that this week. You were talking about it before we came on, Stish. You were buzzing from it too.
Yeah, much better for me. I mean, I've been finding that I'll get like 9, 10 boxes maybe, and that sounds pretty decent, but I'm not getting anything more than like one essence. So if you spread that 9 across like limited, maybe like 4 limited boxes, 2 or 3 in rare and 1 in super rare, it's taken me like 10 weeks maybe to get enough to scrape a tier 5, which, you know, it feels like hard work, doesn't it? But I think this weekend just gone with that guaranteed essence, I did actually manage to. It looked on the app, on the Sorare data app, like I was having an absolute shocker of a weekend. But then when I went on the main site, I realised that some of the places that don't look like they're paying out are actually in position for an essence capsule. So I think I won a couple of like 3 or 4 essence capsules where you're playing in like Div 1, Div 2. And they added up quite nicely. I think I got 15 rare essence this weekend, which is way better than I've earned in a long time. So I think the essence reshuffle, hopefully it doesn't get nerfed anytime soon, but definitely benefited me in the short run, the short term rather. So yeah, hopefully that continues. But yeah, I think that was much better. I think most people will probably agree that last weekend was a bit better in terms of essence if they managed to finish maybe inside that top sort of 20% of the division.
And it opens up an interesting strategy point now, because I was much the same as yourself. I quite liked pulling in 15 rare essence guaranteed without having to cross your fingers on boxes and all the rest of it. And I've been following this pattern kind of since the last time that we were on, of just churning and burning now at 40 points or whatever. But now I don't really have much of a need for in seasons outside of MLS. And without you not being able to manipulate the system anymore to like keep your boxes to one side and not open the champ ones with the content, you're not really able to do that. They did say they're trying to work out something so you can maybe do that in factory. But I'm now maybe getting tempted to stash my essence for next year or for later. You know, get all the way to 500 now, because if you can see like guaranteed amounts, and I did about 15, you did about 15 at the weekend. Let's just say as an average it comes out at like 10. If you know you're going to get 40 over 4 weekends, and then there's some midweeks and a good week maybe spouses you up or whatever, it'll take a while to get there. But if you kind of start there now, it might time in quite nicely to maybe just get a wee jump start ahead of next year potentially. So that was a wee penny drop I thought I think I might have had over the weekend when I seen that. It's like, oh, I was a wee bit like, I don't know if I want to turn this over, but I was like, hey, screw it, we've been doing it to this point, let's keep consistent.
I was the
seen
same.
Nep got an incredible craft. I can't remember who it was he got right now.
He always does.
He got a Jurassic rare.
Didn't he craft a Haaland or something early doors?
I think that was limited, but I think that was like I think that's like the biggest rare one he's caught in that sense.
Yeah.
But he's got some limiteds. Yeah, I think he got like a De Bruyne or a Haaland or something. I think
Yeah.
you're right. But I seen that and I thought, oh, like yeah, I'll turn and burn on mine as well, and it didn't work out that way. Sadly, but I'm now in that middle zone of I like this update, and is this maybe now the best way for me personally to capitalize upon it? That's what I'm kind of weighing up coming into this weekend. Like if I win a lot, I'm probably going to sit on it now.
I'll be tempted to hold on to like maybe tier 3 plus and just hope for something useful, because I think half the issue I've got is ripping at them 5 plus. I think at best I've probably won a tier 3. And yeah, I've not had much luck at all with those tier 5 pluses. So if I can, if I have another game week this weekend, similar to like the last one, and I manage to sort of land 10 Essence plus, I think I will start to think about trying to put them away, and then maybe at the end of the month look at where we're at and rip what's available, or hold on for something for the next kind of threshold up. But yeah, that was good. Do you know what? Another thing that just popped into my head, Quinny. I don't know if you played it or if anyone watching, but someone in the chat mentioned Daegu, and it reminded me. We had the Asia special, didn't we, last weekend? And I think I tweeted about it at the time, and I've not gone back in to check it out now that it's been finished. But I was watching a lot of the Asia games, as I do Saturday morning. The scores in the K League obviously are covered by a different service. It's not Opta, and I've said it in the past that their scoring ends up slightly different. And I think that after last weekend, I mean, my scores in the K League last week were abysmal. Everything was like 35, 38, 39. I don't think anyone hit over 40 for me, apart from my Saul defenders. But the I'd imagine, without looking, that the end, the top end of the rewards for that special were probably a lot lower in their scores than a lot of the European counterparts. But I think that a lot of that is down to the fact that if you're watching the games in Korea, it's becoming quite obvious now that Opta scoring versus whatever the company is they're using out there very different. Like, for example, in Europe, if a player wins a tackle, they win a duel and they win a tackle. In Korea, I think they will just get the tackle. It won't go down as a dual one as well. And similarly for goalkeepers, if they make a save inside the box, in Europe they get shot saved and they get shot from inside box saved. So they get a double score, whereas in Korea they're just getting shot from inside box, and they'll get a save if it's from outside the box. And they're not getting that. They're not stacking those. Those like AA scores are like extremely low by comparison because of that. And obviously, I don't know how consistent that is across the board, but I've watched a couple of games, particularly like where my Ulsan goalkeeper Hyun Woo will be playing, and I'll be watching that, and I'm like, how is his score like not moving? And initially, I thought it might have just been that maybe the live scoring's not quite as up. But, over the course of the game, I'm looking back and I'm like, that save only got scored as a save and not as a save inside the box, and blah blah blah. And yeah, it was difficult. But I wonder if anyone else playing K League has noticed that their AA scores are a lot lower. I think Cecilia is one of the only players who seems to like do really well, like consistently with AA. And I don't know if whoever's watching Daegu is just like boosting him. Maybe they've got a Cecilia super rare or something. But yeah, none of my Korean players are like racking up much AA apart from my Seoul defense because they pass the ball sideways for 90 minutes. But yeah, I'll have to have a look at it. I am kind of like spitballing here, but I did mean to have a look at those leaderboards and see if they figured out the way that they did in my head.
Minime's after you to say Daegu for life, Stish.
Daegu for life. I do love a bit of Daegu, to be fair. So yeah, we'll shout.
Neb did win a rare Highland as well, by the way. And
Win a rare.
Kiksupe is asking if they play 5-in seasons in MLS Specialist. Will they be involved in the hot streak? And the answer to that is no. Hot streak is only in MLS Core Comp. The Specialist thing is totally different. It's meant to be a tough decision. That's what they're banking on. That's their game, So headaches afoot for us all. But yeah, no, I've not been dabbling in Korea for so long, Stish, that's not really something I've been aware of totally. I did know that the whole dual tackle thing was kind of a thing, for the most part. And I think if anything, it's just some cheat codes arrive out of that. Just guys that are going to get 7 tackles in a match and cruise their way to a double triple because maybe they get 8 interceptions as well.
Yeah.
We're hardly any duels, so there's definitely
just
some creases.
So it's funny. I was saying about Seoul scoring well because I think like
Feel
the
free
top.
to share a screen.
Yeah, let me just get into that. Let's share my screen. Here we go. Can you see that?
Got it.
So yeah, like the sort of top place. I'm looking at rare here. Was like a Ray Soul stack. But then yeah, like a lot of the Soul like defensive goalkeeper, Kim Ju Sung, Kim Jin Soo, you know, and then a couple of Ulsan and Lingard there. So yeah, Seoul obviously had a good result. It kept the Quinny. So they've cleaned up. But I did wonder if like we'd see more Japanese lineups versus Korean, and that's not actually the case. There's a lot of Korean lineups as opposed to Japanese lineup. But to be fair, my Japanese cards in general also scored quite low. I don't know if like there were many clean sheets kept and no big wins, not that I can think of. But yeah, there's a lot of Seoul players in that kind of top. But the scores are not that bad actually. 500 there was the top. But yeah, you know, you could have had a top 10 with 444, which probably wouldn't win you a great deal in Europe at the moment. So anyone who got in early on those Asia mints has probably done okay out of that cash tournament last weekend.
Looking for food just gave us the name of Hang Chang Ray, so I've just went and pulled him up, Stish. A 30-year-old defender. I think he's at Daejeon. I think that might be. He's picked up a double-double, 41 all-around points, right? 2 tackles, a blocked cross, 17 possession won, 11 possession lost, 8 duels won with 1 interception. Just a weird combination of stats there to see so many possession won with, you know, like very little intercepting or duel winning by comparison. The rest of the passing stats look okay. But yeah, that duel success is 8-0. You know, that's mega.
That's going, yeah. Good
30
going.
points in possession bracket.
Yeah. You'll take that, definitely. Got a little cough here as well, mate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's contagious, I think. He gets subbed off as well before the clean sheet bonus. Oh, so he did.
Oh, wow.
57th minute. Ho, ho, ho.
Might be one to watch then. If you fancy Daejeon this season.
Daejeon Citizens. But yeah, it's not really something I've been that close to this year. And I finally kind of got into Brazil a little bit. I've got a bunch of Brazil cards, and I think that is it this weekend they're back or next weekend? Yeah, I think it's next weekend they're back. So still a little bit to go for some more of my not quite cross Atlantics. I know Japan and that isn't really cross Atlantic, but my kind of non-EU kind of footprint or whatever. Yeah.
I think this weekend there's a few fixtures going on. I think the big thing this weekend is going to be avoiding those DMPs in the champ. So yeah, I think that'll be the main crux of my team building. Are you going to have a go at the Cap 250, the special this weekend? Have you had a little look at that?
I probably will have a team for it. I've not got that far in my build yet, but because I've just had to do some content around it, like MLS Road to Glory and then that kind of video I mentioned before. I kind of waited to do my champ teams before doing that because they were a nice wee kind of example of where we're at in the season. I think I might have just about done all my teams actually once I've imported them. I've got Jonas Urbeg who's going to be playing for Bayern now for the next couple of games, so I think I've got a goalkeeper that could go into it. I've not even looked at the prizes for it yet.
Good. That'd be good, yeah.
But I do love, this is maybe something to talk on, because I do love the UI update that we've got on Sorare. I don't know if you've had a wee play about with it.
Yeah, it's much easier.
Cap 250 prize board. It's alright, actually, isn't it? It really depends on the entry level. Just under 3,000 players. But see, being able just to go like that. This was really good for me, for like looking at MLS Specialist and going, right, what's on the podium here? How does it work? Right, da 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 da. And then just being able to do this and go to MLS. It just feels much slicker, you know, being able to have a wee glance at everything and cycle through. Where's the teams, the classic and in seasons all sit beside each other, and I really like the update that we've had on this overall. Have you had a wee play about with it?
Yeah, I do like it. It is much cleaner. I think they've been struggling with like getting this just right, haven't they? Because I think the way that the tournament's been spread out since back in the day, like it has been quite complex to like see the prize pool in the division you're in and see the you know, like who's in the prize pool and all that, and it's getting better, definitely. But yeah, I'm quite tempted to maybe target this a little bit more. Yeah, just because of those DMPs, maybe I'm a bit worried about that. This might end up being one of my stronger entries, I think, this weekend, if I can get the pieces together. I've got an okay team lined up in rare at the moment. I've got Rafael Romo in goal. He's got a 60% win chance. I think a 40% clean sheet chance. And then I've gone to use like some of, like your contender cards, because I think you get more bang for your buck in these than you do maybe in contender with a good fixture. So I think I've got Anderson Arroyo, who plays in La Liga 2, and Juan Brunetta, who's over in MX. And then I really like Anthony at the minute. Anthony at Betis, at home to Las Palmas. And at the moment, they've kind of lined up. I've got lined up Sancho, which is more going off like what my Sorare data has kind of like filled in that last slot. I'm not 100% sure he's going to stay there, just because I'm still not too sure whether he starts, and Chelsea are a little bit hit and miss as well, aren't they? So I think I'd rather maybe fill that slot with someone who might get some good at AA, rather than be a bit too dependent on that goal to like push the scores into that 70 plus. But yeah, I think under 23 is looking like my main entry at the minute, as it usually does. Next to that Bundesliga lineup that I was talking about, but I think I need to have a serious think about what I'm doing with the Bayern cards, and obviously, I don't think I'll be using Verts in that lineup. So I've got some homework to do the next couple of days. What's your main entry going to be this weekend, Quinny?
I'm not really too sure. I'm kind of between a few places. I'm kind of at the spot where, because I don't really do much global or under 23, I prioritised under 23 last weekend, actually, truth be told. But all the cards don't really bump into each other as much as they used to, so I just kind of do it quite systematically for the most part. Like, just build the La Liga, then Champ, and then go into Contender, and then I don't build Challenger, obviously, but I kind of use Challenger guys if possible for like cap 250, which I've not even opened yet. Actually, I might even have we're talking about Urbig, I might even have like a Challenger keeper that could play this for me. Like a Barkas, there we go, or a Hazard. So yeah, I've got some. Yeah, so like it's not really. I'm not really in a difficult position of where to play cards quite a lot of the time.
Yeah,
So I don't know, where am I most excited for? I'm probably most excited for MLS, because that's just kind of a discovery situation at the moment. I actually really fancy I was talking about this in the video that'll be out on Saturday, but this Valencia stack, I won the Barrenechea, and then the four outfield players cost a combined under 40 quid or something like that back in November. They've been borderline unusable for the most part, although individually everyone on screen there has had some good scores for me when called upon. But with Atletico, Real Madrid in between Champions League first and second legs, Barca rotating like mad, this is just anyone's game week, and Valencia at home to bottom of the table. So
nice.
I've got it's in D1 as well, so I've got a wee hope and a prayer that the budget stack can come out on top, on that one. So
Nice.
that's maybe the one I've got the most edge on, where I'm like, oh, that might just clip.
I like it. Yeah, that's decent. Yeah, I haven't got anything quite as exciting as that in terms of cash entries, but I've been looking at maybe going into Champ Europe with an in season. I've got an option there. It doesn't score particularly high on Sorare data. I never feel particularly confident about running any lineups that look, that are rated like under 70 in any of those tournaments. So I'm not sure. I'm not sold on some of my lineups. It is a bit of a headache this weekend because that Bundesliga one looks really strong, but it really depends. Firstly, on what I find Frankfurt are normally a pretty unreliable clean sheet, and
Yep.
they're at home to Union Berlin, but they never keep a clean sheet when I use those players. So yeah, I'm not sure. We'll see.
Yeah,
But
I think with German keepers, you just need to set and forget them. Just take them, and you just got to. What happens, happens. Just kind of go with it. Contrabass Saltida, thanks for joining in the chat today. New name in the chat. I'm new to Sorare. I have the option to play either under 23 or contender warm up. So this mode Stishy Boy is maximum one limited, and you can pick anyone you want, of course. Otherwise, would you recommend I play under 23 or contender? So it's kind of, I personally would rather win something from from under 23, I beg your pardon, than contender. But contender might be a bit easier to win because the common cards are really easy to pick. You know,
Yeah.
guys like Berardi, Shaqiri, and and whoever else you want to
Oh,
put into that mixture. Yeah, we had a wee glitch there, sorry. Whereas under 23, that's a bit trickier. Now, it might be a bit more achievable if you can pick the winners out, as it were. You know who's like Guardiola doesn't have any rotation to worry about for Champions League. They're away at Forest. Not saying that's a good game, but he's
yeah.
normally like a top defender. If you know you can get some of those guys lined up, then that could be kind of easy enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd rather win under 23, but contender might be an easier win.
In warm up U23, does it go global or is it just champ?
Yeah, global.
Goes global. Yeah, I
I don't know if
think
I can see it on my page because
I'd say
everything's.
out of the cards at my disposal in my gallery, if you're going under 23, this week I think Kim Ju Sung at Seoul is like always a safe bet in defense, just because the AA is always so high, and they've started actually half decent this season. Yeah, he's definitely one of my main picks in my U23 teams this week. Cherky's got Nice away. He's got a highly rated fixture there. Nathaniel Brown at home to Union Berlin in defence could be a good shout.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm almost going to have to scrap a lot of these lineups and start again looking at them now. Like, there's all like, I'm
Thursday
just like
syndrome.
sitting there saying that I've got Brown in one team and Ju Sung in another, but then I've got like Musiala in that team who might be rotated. Probably need to move him out and just put someone who's a bit more dead set in there. Yeah. There's a few 50% on Sorare data I don't like the look of, but I would agree that I think Musiala and Wirtz probably both get rested this weekend. Yeah. Decisions, mate. Decisions.
I was just looking to warm up the maximum, but they've totally nerfed this now. But it's tier 4 card reward is the best thing you can get. High chance of boxes. So really, like the card win is you're only thinking about podium. Otherwise, it's a box for the top 5%. Boxes are varying quality depending on where you finish. Under 23's got about 1,700 entrants. Contender has about the same, about 1,700 or so. And it's the same prize pool. So yeah, it is. Yeah, it's quite unforgiving. When I started messing about with the warm up for the Zero to Hero series, it was like maybe top 10 for cards. But it just means there's more stuff going into the actual pro comps, which is like fair enough, isn't it? As warm up to get you up and running, to get you going. So good luck with that. And the Best of Europe series we were chatting about last week's dish is one of the primary methods of trying to win market credits. And again, when I was doing that cash card box video, I've won I didn't count them because they were hard to keep a track of, and they weren't always presented in the, you click the wee button and it says what you won this game week, boxes, cards, and it has a wee total
Yeah.
for you. The market credits don't always appear at that dead easily. Depends on what team won it and where that's listed in the big pantheon of where your squads are. But I'd easily have won from like raw comps, like the Christmas special select your target thing they did, and one or two others. Like I've easily won like 300 quid to 400 quid on like leaderboard market credits. Yeah, never mind random bits and bobs out of boxes or whatever. Did you said you were maybe going to look at Best of Europe? Have you had a dabble with it yet?
I did. I actually I put a half decent lineup. What I thought was anyway. I fancied Emiliano Martinez in goal to have like a reasonably busy night, but I thought that Villa would keep that clean sheet, and I think like that was the opening of the weekend for me, or the midweek rather. So him not keeping that clean sheet kind of dampened the vibes of the party a little bit. And then last night I had Inigo Martinez, Pedri, and Yamal from Barcelona. They did okay. I used the limited card for Martinez, and I captained Pedri. He did all right, but yeah, I've got Cherky to play, but I'm not gonna hit that 400 plus. I can't. So we go again on the weekend, but yeah, I'll have to remind myself to make sure that I do that, because that is a nice little way of keeping that market credit rolling over as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good fun. I've still got mine to run. I had Rafinha captain, which felt nice last night. Emi Martinez, goalkeeper, screwed me with that one Maxime de Kuiper goal just to ruin it. But I've got Isco, Soyuncu, and Nkunku being the limited all playing tonight. So I'm still in there. 250 points I need essentially to get my piece of the pie. And maybe quite chunky, by the way. 29,000 entrants. I don't know how many of them are actually going to pull it. But yeah, I've still got a wee bit of that to go in. Again, it's just another wee strategy point from last week I thought I'd bring up. I guess the last thing to tackle, Stishy Boy, is a wee bit of fun. We normally have, over the End Product 99 episodes, we have probably spoken more, for better or for worse, about Man United than any other club. And Mini Me, who is a City fan, is in the chat telling us that United are considering bagging Amarim already to bring in Xavi Hernandez, formerly of Barcelona. Wheels are falling off again, Stishy Boy. Thoughts on that?
Yeah. Who wants the job? It doesn't matter who we bring in. It's literally like one of the worst jobs in football right now in terms of, I don't know how you win. There's not really any money there. There's not, there's some good youth talent coming through, but do you want to manage a youth team in the Premier League? Because I think that's kind of like our best option at the minute, is to offload a load of the deadwood and give the kids a chance, and accept a few seasons in that bottom half, just trying to build up from the bottom. But the issue that United have, I think, is in the transfer market now, really between a rock and a hard place, because we can't afford the wages, but the players don't want to come and play for us if we're not in the Champions League. So then you have to pay big wages to try and tempt them. So I just can't see how we're going to sign the kind of players who are really going to push us into that top four again. For me, it's going to be a tough 5 to 10 years, I think, for the club, and that's just me being realistic. I think we'll lose a few players. They'll get the Casemiros will run down their contracts, and we won't be signing any players on those kind of weekly contracts anymore. I think Luke Shaw's injured again. I mean, at this point, what can you do? It's yeah. I mean, I'm a realistic United fan. I don't get overly dramatic about it. It's just, it is what it is, and I think that we're not good enough to be top half. We got some good individual players. Don't get me wrong. I think Bruno Fernandes is still performing at the top end of things. Gets us out of trouble more times. If you took his goals away in the last few months, we'd be even lower down the table. But yeah, we're knackered, mate. I think we have just too many bad deals. Have cost too much. It's a bit like trading the crypto markets, where you jump in on a meme coin at the top end of the deal, and then you're trying to shift it when it's worth a fiver. You've lost your 400 quid down the drain or whatever. But we've been doing that in the transfer market for a decade now, and none of it's really worked out. We've let big players leave on frees. We've shifted them off on the cheap. It's quite humbling, isn't it? I think it's just United have been humbled, and we just have to accept that that's where we are. If we do, Amarim looks like he's had enough. Let's be honest. The way he talks after the game, and I've seen videos today of him wandering around on a training pitch far away from the players, and everyone's like, oh, you don't even want to train with the players, and he seems tired already. He seems like he must regret taking the job. There must be a part of him that regrets this. And I think any manager looking at what's happening to him now, knowing that you're going to come in and have to manage this group of players, I don't know if anyone would be confident coming into this job. So whether we sack him and bring in Xavi or not, I don't think any difference. Don't matter. I think if you put Pep Guardiola in charge of that team right now, he wouldn't get any results. So I don't think it matters who you put in there. We just got to be prepared to let some of these players run their contracts down, and be ready for 5 years of winter, basically. And hopefully, Liverpool did it through the 90s and to the early 2000s, and they're only just coming back now. But when I was young in the 80s, they was the big team that was hard to beat, and that was Man United for 10, 15 seasons at least. And someone else's turn now, I think. So wait, the cookie crumbles, mate.
I'm just looking at my camera Stish on the live stream. It doesn't look like my camera. See, after that glitch, I don't think it's came back. So I'm just
There he
playing
is.
around with the settings to see if it will actually appear on the stream now. The only thing that's been appearing so far has been this thing. Whenever I put that on, just my little face icon.
Oh, we've been
So,
getting a bit of your face back and forth. We lost you for a split second a couple of times, but we've been good.
oh really? Well,
Yeah,
I don't know. I've
I
got it
waffled.
on the YouTube stream and I can't see myself, so I'm just panicking that
Oh, I've
it's going
still
to
got.
dropped off. But
I've still got.
FF Thinker Sean Forbes, currently 80 players. I've hit the 400 in Best of Europe Stish. That means everyone, if it stayed the way it is, it's not going to, after tonight with Europa League and whatever, there'll be a lot of picks in there, no doubt. But if it stopped right now, that's 250 quid each.
Oh wow,
That's chunky, man. You
that
know?
is, that is, mate. That is decent. You
Yeah.
take that all day long.
I think with Man United, just to kind of come back to you on that, and then we'll kind of round off. But I do think Amarim, like, and Ten Hag, and Ranić, they've all had like this prolonged housekeeping thing. Like less so Amarim, it feels like he's just kind of picking up the pieces a little bit, and he's had Rashford leave finally when no one else could get Rashford moved. Um, but would you cry? They're all going in there firefighting, and it feels like there's been so much resistance, and then all that stuff that Ineos is doing in the background. It feels like they have not really got focus on one thing. They're kind of doing everything at once at the moment.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, I think it is one of those ones. I don't think Xavi Hernandez fixes any problems. It just puts you
Nah,
back to
I
square
know
one in some way. But I
it's way
think there is
deep.
a regret in that Man United squad right now because Amarim is playing 3-4-3 no matter what, and I think they're a wee bit like, actually, we don't want to be fucked with this because after him, the next guy is not going to play 3-4-3 and we're going to be back to square one no matter how well he does, unless he becomes like amazing, then you can build from that properly.
Yeah.
So it'll be funny to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, I just think it's a better division now. It's tough, and if any team can get beat on their day now, and unfortunately, we've been way off the pace for a long time. So, yeah, it is what it is, mate. I think we'll be, we'll be like Everton have been for a few seasons. I reckon it could literally be that bad, right down, right down there in the mix. Who
Oof.
knows?
Well, I did predict Man United to be 13th this season on my Premier League predictions, so I'm feeling quite good about that one now. It'll be a good clip for the end of the season, no doubt. But on the note of my glitch and the time of day, Stishy boys, I know you've got places to be and people to go and collect and whatnot.
Yeah,
That'll be all for this week, guys. Thanks to everyone that's tuned in, no matter where you've been watching this live and loud with us through the glitches and whatever on YouTube and Twitch, or if you're catching this after it's been recorded out on the podcasting services. Thanks for all the support for the podcast coming back. It's been an absolute pleasure. Good luck to every one of you this game week. We hope we wish you all the best of luck in pursuit of some end product itself. Me and Stishy Boy are locked and loaded, or maybe not quite loaded, but we're locked and shuffling and dicing around and whatever. Stish, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
yes, Quinny. Thanks for having me again, mate. And we will be back next week for episode 100, the centenary, mate. Big one.
Yeah. See you next week, everyone.